What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now Plus. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about the Splinter Cell remake. So they had a kind of a sit-down conversation to talk about Splinter Cell in general, right, for the anniversary. And part of that, I think it was like a 20-plus minute video, they talked about specifically the remake for Splinter Cell. And they showed a couple early concept pictures, which all look really, really cool. So what I want to do is show you guys a clip. This was uploaded on Twitter by Okami Games. Great guy and great creator over there. And it's about a minute 18 long, and it goes over what they say. So let's listen to that first, and then I'll talk about it.
It's not simply a remaster. It's being built from the ground up. We get to do, all the content from scratch, fresh and ready to go.
Yeah, we're aiming to create this top-tier remake and push quality as much as possible. This should help us set a good foundation for the franchise going forward.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of great posts from the community. We read the open letter that was on the subreddit. We see all of the other posts on the various socials, and it's really energizing us to keep going.
And obviously with a remake, 20 years later, we can look back at, the plot, the characters, and the overall story of the original game, make some improvements, things that might not have aged particularly well, small things, but the core of the story, the core of the experience will remain as it was in the original game.
We've also been exploring new and innovative tech and ideas, as well as features and elements from the other Splinter Cell titles.
We're very early in production. We're still prototyping. We don't want to rush anything. We want to make sure that we absolutely nail the game. We actually do everything in the right way and produce an absolutely stellar quality experience. And we will be going dark for a little while so we can focus on making the absolute best game possible.
So there's a couple things to focus on here. Number one, to talk about, it's not a remaster, it's a remake. I don't know why they necessarily said that, because the game is literally called, as of right now, Splinter Cell Remake. So by calling it, it's simply not a remaster. That's quite obvious, at least to me. I don't know if to anybody else. Another thing, we're aiming to create a top-tier remake to help us set a good foundation for the franchise going forward. So that tells me, this is the kickoff. They would expect that this would do well. This would kind of reinvigorate the Splinter Cell brand, and then you would continue making new games afterwards. Honestly, that is perfect. That's what all of these really, I guess each one is a little bit different, right? You make remakes for slightly different reasons, but a big part of it could easily be to reinvigorate the fans of that franchise. And depending on where the franchise is at that given moment, it could easily be to, promote it, push it forward. I've talked about that for Sly Cooper. Remake the games, see if there's interest, and then make future games. That's actually Crash Bandicoot. While it's considered a remaster, the Crash Insane trilogy, that really is the prime example. You put it out there, it generates buzz, it's incredible, and then you make a brand new game right after that with Crash 4. So that's kind of the gold standard. That seems like that's what they're doing, so I'm happy about that. They also talk about how they're going to use features in other Splinter Cell games and putting it into this one. Now, this is, in my opinion, an example of when you remake a game and you kind of add outside things into it. This is on the good side of that scale, right? Because ultimately, you're looking at a franchise. Yes, you're only remaking the first game, but you're saying, all right, well, we did cool things in the other games too. So why don't we kind of retroact, go backwards and take those things and those things we never had in that first game and add them in, which would enhance the overall experience, because you're not taking the bad of the newer games, you're taking the good and you're inserting it, you're injecting it into the first one. So that is an example of the positives of doing something like that. Now, what's interesting to me, maybe the most, and it's definitely the most controversial, which maybe it draws me to it, but they mentioned the whole kind of, rewriting, or they changing things, right? Because, right, and we talked about this actually in a video a few months back on the channel, that the story was going to be redone. I think the official thing is, using the first Splinter Cell game as our foundation, we are rewriting and updating the story for a modern day audience. And that was a job post for the studio. So in the job post, it literally says they're going to rewrite the story and update it for a modern day audience. And whenever you hear modern day audience, that normally is a kiss of death. I guess not all the time, but generally what it basically means is you're going to throw out, what kind of made it special, and you're going to make it for, a more safe crowd. You don't want to step on any toes nowadays, things like that. That's generally what it means. However, I will say, I'll give them a little bit of credit. In this clip, you hear them talk about that specifically. I think they know that people talked about it. People are very upset about that. And they basically say there's small things that didn't age quite well. So, I mean, that's still the whole idea of like you're trying not to step on toes. Something that was maybe edgy doesn't fly. Now, whatever way you want to look at it, it's still that. But they do make a point to say like the main things that made the story in the first game, they're still going to be back in this one. They're just changing some smaller stuff. Now, small to them could be not small to us. Small to them could be minuscule to us. Ultimately, we have to wait for the game to come out. But that is interesting because you know for a fact they saw people talk about it because they literally addressed it. And they didn't fully fix the issue, I don't think, because they still did say, yeah. In fact, now they even said that things didn't age well. So now they've acknowledged not only are we redoing some of it, but we're going to say some of it actually just would not fly nowadays, which is, that's something to say. And then the final thing they say is that, very early in production, they're prototyping right now, and that they are going to go dark for a while. So, you would expect that. I didn't even expect this, to be honest with you. This is still additional stuff. And the concept art, what they showed us looks really good. Now, it's just concept art. I am not going to get too excited over something as small as that. So I don't expect to see this game, for quite a while at this point, probably another year or two before we start to actually see, maybe not even a year, probably longer than that before we start to see some big stuff for it. But at least they're making progress. At least they kind of come out and say it and try to address some of the controversy with the game. So we'll see the next steps they make, and we'll see if this game can land. Obviously, the first Splinter Cell is very, very much loved. That was a big point of this live stream, was actually bringing on guests to talk about how much they love the original. So please don't ruin it, Ubisoft. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure you guys are subscribed, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.